Hey everybody, Zeal Brothers here with another video. This one in response to our boy Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah has expressed some criticism about lots of CEOs of these new pharmaceutical companies pushing for more vaccinations, and he has been basically saying they're doing things for profit. And it's funny to me when you look at his argument, because when you look at the argument that he makes a good argument, but it's almost as if he had to apologize for the possibility of being wrong. And this is where I would just point to that the dominant culture has a bias against trying to be fair on this issue. The people who are skeptical about how bad this virus is, or about the solutions that people have proposed to fight this virus, or people who even have gone as far as to say you can stop the virus, the determination of the bias is if somebody is wrong on the side of getting the vaccines or getting the mask or doing any of that stuff, we forgive them. But if somebody is wrong on the other side, they know they won't be forgiven. So they need to apologize in advance. And you will see this in a lot of ways. A lot of times when somebody says something that appears to be attacking the dominant view, they'll be like, hey, I could be wrong, but, and you never hear that on the other side. You never hear somebody say, hey, get a mask. I could be wrong. It might not do any good, but still get a mask. It might protect you. You never hear that. You never hear somebody saying, hey, you get a vaccine. I might be wrong. It might not do any good. It might kill you instead, but, still get it. You never hear that apology. But on the other side, you do get all these apologies in advance. And that just kind of tells you where the pressure is going from. It kind of reminds me, it was when I was in church and I was preaching for the first time. And I was preaching a sermon that I knew some people weren't going to like. And I felt this pressure. And when you feel this pressure when you face this audience, you almost start apologizing for the position you're going to take before you even take it. I understand that feeling. But that feeling is an appreciation of what your audience actually feels or where the dominant culture is pushing. And sometimes we got to fight against that pressure. So when I look at Trevor Noah's stance, to me, it speaks more of where we're at in this debate right now. Where are we at? We're at the point where we are recognizing that the vaccines, they work somewhat, right? It seems that the vaccines work somewhat. But a lot of people are questioning the cost. And it seems to me that every solution that someone will propose will always make these pharmaceutical companies a lot of money all the time. And nobody has really asked this question, how much money are they making? And that's what I really want to know. I want to know how much they're making. Because when you push for vaccines for kids, and we know that kids are not really getting killed by these viruses, when you push these vaccines for people under 30 and people under 30 are not getting it, and you try to make it mandatory for all these companies, you're putting a lot of money in somebody's pockets. And you're making a product that you're mandating that people have to buy. And I just can't help but see that that is a very profitable way of doing business, to make somebody have to buy your product. And nobody questions the price, because for the consumer it's free, but nothing is free in this world. And I can tell you that there's nobody that's worse in negotiating prices than the government. They get scammed all the time. A lot of times when you look at these roads being built, I'm always questioning how much of a scam it is that some of these companies will tear up these roads, and these roads will just sit there just tore up for weeks on end for no good reason. And I know somebody in the comments might have a little bit of a reason for it, but the truth of the matter is that if you have been anywhere in the Midwest, you'll note that some of these construction projects seem to take a lot longer than they really should. There are not people working on them constantly. The ones that are, hey, you see great progress. And I'm amazed when I see the ones who people actually put some work in compared to the ones where the cities just tear up half the street and leave it the whole summer. And that happens a lot. It tends to happen in more poverty areas, but we won't talk about that right now. But the point is that the government is bad at negotiating prices. So I can imagine that these pharmaceutical companies are making a lot of money on this. And when you look at the fact that they are pushing this across the world, you got to recognize that these people are making tons of money. Meanwhile, you got countries like India that know they can't afford that for as many people as they have in their country, because they're the second most populous country. And who knows, right? If we had accurate census numbers, they may be the most. Them and China, their populations are so close to each other. A lot of people don't realize that. They always talking about China as being the most populous, but India is right there, right? Google it. So the point is that you got India who couldn't afford this, and what did they do? Well, they use a lot of the, how shall we say, not vaccinating treatments, but they use the treatments after you got the disease. What should you do then? Basically, they use medicines that in the United States we're trying to ban. Simply because maybe Trump said that they worked. And when you look at a lot of the arguments that people are making, ultimately, it loses a lot of logic. And I'll put it to you this way. We have a big emphasis on vaccines, but no emphasis on natural immunity. We have a big emphasis on treating vaccines before you get it, but we have no emphasis on using any experimental drugs after you get it where you possibly could die. We have hospitals refusing to try medicines and media companies denying medicines that doctors have said worked, and then pressuring hospital companies to not use these medicines, when in fact we have people dying and saying, hey, I'm going to die anyway, let me try it. What harm is it to let a dying man try something? And so there's news reports about people who are trying diseases, trying medicines, and getting courts to order hospitals to try medicines that the hospitals won't let people try. In other words, they're willing to let people die to push this narrative. And that's where I say we lack logic. We lack logic when we approach this. This virus has taken away everybody's reason. And when you look at how it's restricted freedom, how it's restricted free speech, how you can't speak on the virus or anything related to the virus without getting a warning on Facebook, without somebody posting some warning on your video on YouTube, you got to understand that logic has been thrown out the window a long time ago.